I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a smart, witty, and timely podcast brought to you at a time when Americans are getting fed up with all the shouting and bickering in Washington, D.C. So I, Halli Casser-Jayne, and veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper are here to offer you insightful, engaging insight into politics, always with a smile and a martini glass, and with dialogue that snaps, crackles, and pops, and with our special guests. Whether mulling over Melania Trump's latest fashion or Donald's declining poll numbers, we strive to offer a different take on all things politics in our 60-minute weekly conversation. So, pour yourselves a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and have a listen as we tackle it all and like to stir and sometimes shake things up. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a lot of questions still waiting for answers. Is former Trump NSA chief Mike Flynn headed to the Pokey? Will it be the shady Trump Foundation that ultimately brings down the president? Will Trump ever get his infamous wall built? It was just another week in the storied presidency of Donald J. Trump. Welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, and we're just beginning. Here we go. Oi!
Oi!
Oi, what a day I had today. I swear that's what Trump must have been thinking. What a week, right? Day week. The foundation, that's going to be dissolved. He's got a cave on his wall. On top of my list, judge rebukes Michael Flynn and delays sentencing. I mean, you know, does it get any crazier? Day after day, night after night, minute after minute, moment after moment. I got to say this, though. Before we get into the weeds, I just want to say, you know me on Twitter, right, Matt?
Sure.
You know me and my crazy followers and the people who I follow. But I am suddenly getting bots.
Oh, well, that happens.
And I'm getting them one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's like the Russians have found me, and they are going to stop me from saying that what I need to say. And it's spooky time. It's absolutely spooky time. And you can tell them when they come around, by the way. You know, they don't have any followers. they don't always have faces, you know. Just weird stuff. But I'm starting to sense if it's a barometer there. Plus, I'm getting people who are tweeting weird things 2 seconds after Flynn says, for instance, which we'll talk about in a second, you know, I understand, you know, this was not entrapment. I get tweets. Entrapment.
Right.
There's an alternative universe thing going on out there, and we're going to talk about it. I want to set the stage, and that is it. I think there's a lot of hysteria on that other side, on the right, that's now starting to really, just really, really, really get into hysteria. But let's begin with what happened to Mike Flynn today. You want to set it up? Yeah, crazy. You set it up, and then we'll talk.
Well, today was the day Mike Flynn was supposed to be sentenced for the crimes he's admitted guilt to, including lying to the FBI about his conversations with the Russian ambassador. Anyway, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, had suggested that Flynn serve no jail time because he had been so helpful with the special counsel's work. But it was quite an unusual hearing because when Flynn got to federal court today in Washington, the judge said, look, he was very tough on Flynn. He said, look, you betrayed your country, your work on behalf of the Turkish government, for which your colleagues have been convicted and are getting likely to get very stiff sentences, are serious crimes. And I'm not going to decide today what your sentence is until you're done cooperating with the special counsel. But I'm not happy. So it seemed like, quite plausible that Flynn will have to do some jail time, which is quite something for a national security advisor to end up in the Pokey.
To say the least. Jeez.
To say the least. I mean, he's already an admitted felon, but now ending up in the Pokey, too, is, well, it's a sign of the seriousness of what we're talking about.
And this judge, Emmett Sullivan, who, by the way, Janine Pirro, on Fox the other day, touted as one of the fairest, most amazing judges, and assumed that he would go against, the FBI, did exactly the opposite. Made Flynn under oath, say, I was not trapped. This was not entrapment. I found that this judge has been paying attention to the news, is what I'm thinking, and didn't like what he was hearing, being floated around. Yeah, and I wonder, there's a couple of things that you said. I never understood, and you know my theory, why Mueller would have gone ahead and said no jail time. That just seemed weird. Seemed weird to me. Still seems weird to me, Matt.
Well, the only thing you can say is if you want to still draw some people out to talk who haven't spoken, it's a little bit of an incentive to think, oh, well, maybe I can talk and I'm not going to have to do time.
But the other side of it is, if you go and you look at the redacted part of the, 302, 502 numbers, that leads to something very grave, I think, which is what it looks to me that judge was reacting to. Like, there's more you haven't talked about, and we want it all from you. Was this a bad day for Mueller in that respect, then?
Well, yeah, in the sense that the judge didn't just agree with him automatically. The judge didn't say, "Oh yeah, no problem. We won't give him any time." The judge said, "No, I'm gonna think about it, and this is really serious."
In a way,
that's that's definitely a rebuke of Mueller. Right.
That's and the separation of powers, I think, is intriguing when you think of it to those terms. Listen, my great moment was because I really, first of all, the judge even used the word treason, walked it back a little bit, but definitely used the word treason. He didn't throw it out there for nothing. Judges know exactly what it is that they're saying.
No, that's a serious word. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really extraordinary. But when he was exiting the court today, and payback is hell. Lock him up.
Right.
Lock him up. Didn't you love that? That was just more than I could bear. I would like that to be what is finally said to Trump, but that's a whole other thing. So I think this whole thing, I actually think this signals to me we're a long way from the end game on all of this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet. I mean, there are just so many moving parts here.
Yeah, right. And redactions.
We know Flynn isn't even completely done with his work for the special counsel Mueller. So, I think these kind of predictions that, it's going to wrap up soon are a little mistaken. I mean, that said, I think Mueller doesn't want it to drag on.
No, I'm
2
sure
or more
not.
years. Yeah. So I think, I think it's going to be this year, but I don't think it's going to be this winter.
So palace intrigue. Why is Trump sticking with Flynn? Even the White House afterwards, when they gave one of the good old Sarah, put her 2 cents in. We're sticking with this guy.
Yeah, well, it is interesting because they've not, they've called Michael Cohen a rat who's cooperating, and other people are cooperating. They've been disparaging it. But Flynn, of course, has cooperated so much that Mueller didn't even want him to do any time. And yet they've been very kind about Mueller. So how do you explain that? I don't know. It could be that, Mueller... I don't know. It could be they think Flynn knows things that are particularly damaging, so they want to keep him happy.
It would also indicate...
they can frame it as a, Mueller entrapped this guy. I mean, they like saying that.
Well, that was
God.
blown. That was blown today because the judge blew that for them.
The judge said that's bullshit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely think that's not it. But here, all of this has to tie back to Trump because otherwise, what's the point? I mean, yeah, you're taking these dudes down, but eventually it has to tie up to Trump. So you have to assume Trump knows what Mike Flynn knows. And,
Trump knows what Mike Flynn knows. Gotcha.
Right? So is somebody feeding him Manafort, Mike Flynn, whomever, so that Trump knows that whatever it was that he has to give up, he hasn't given up yet? See what I'm saying?
Right. Well, that is definitely possible. It's... Boy, we're just guessing.
Of course we're guessing, but
this is complicated. I don't know. This is complicated.
To say the least. I mean, but you know what's not complicated?
What?
Everybody around Trump is going down, or has gone down.
It's not looking great for.
I think you're being it.
But the big outstanding questions are like I think that are kind of Don Jr. and Jared. I mean, they had these Russia meetings, and the question is whether they, how much legal jeopardy they're in.
Well, how about Javanka, who gave Mike Flynn's name and insisted on Mike Flynn? And then, of course, you get into the other piece, which I still don't believe. It would be beyond credibility that the only person in this entire group who is not implicated is Mike Pence. He would be it. Huh?
Well, I know what you're saying. But just remember, he doesn't come on the scene until pretty late in the game.
I don't care how late in the game he came. He came on, and he must have known coming on. So you could say the same thing about Manafort. Manafort brought him in. I'm just saying.
Well,
there's one dupe in the entire.
I know. You see, he's like Agnew for you, right? You think he's going to go?
Yeah.
Of course, Agnew went on stuff different from what
right, but you know how it works in Washington.
Yeah.
So I just, it would be beyond credibility or what's the word? Delete.
Incredulous.
Take your pick.
Yeah.
What word? That he's the only one, the last man standing. I do not see that. So there you go. So we get it all. I think we got that all. I think it's fascinating.
I think we did, but even as we speak, something else could happen.
That's it. That's
the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. Welcome to the world. Okay, the next thing that came up, I thought that was, there's a lot, and we're not going to do it within sequence, so stick with us for the arrow, folks. The Trump Foundation is going to be dissolved. This, to me, again, is just unbelievable that...
Yeah.
Another checkbook to serve Mr. Trump's business and political interests. I mean, come on. This is, and what they're doing in New York might prove more dangerous at the end of the day to Trump than anything Mueller could do. I don't know. What are your thoughts here? It's really wild.
Well, it's definitely, he can't pardon himself or others when it comes to these state crimes. Right. So these state charges are serious. I mean, it now seems clear that the Trump charity at best was horribly mismanaged, but it's more likely was just a total fraud used to kind of funnel money to whatever they wanted to. When, laws govern, you can't do that with a charity. It has to go to charitable things, not to giant oil paintings of yourself that hang in your business or a fountain or other things. It was kind of a giant con. And today, it seems to me they more or less admitted it by shutting it down.
I want to know what they showed them that they were willing to do that. Trump is not one to cave on stuff like this. He likes to, go to courts and have a good time at it. I think hats off to the heroic work of the Washington Post's David Fahrenthold, who just started his investigation into this by calling all the places that Trump claimed to have sent money to find out if they'd ever gotten the check, and just found, more often than not, no. No, those checks went right to Trump. Right.
Right. And of course, some of these a lot of these charity papers have to be filed publicly. So he had things to work with, and he did a lot of legwork and really broke this thing open. So it's just, well, it confirms what a lot of people think. Trump
University fraud, fold. Trump Foundation fraud, fold. Yeah, obviously Trump Inc. And, Trump Inc. right now, I think, has just got a new address. It's the Oval Office. I don't think there's any difference.
Oh, we handed over all the business to Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Don Jr.
He
doesn't have anything to do with it. No. And they're running it.
Yeah. Particularly the hotel.
Oh,
and the Saudis, which we didn't discuss, but anybody out there understands that now there's proof that Saudis were pretty much keeping that thing alive by booking rooms to the tunes of thousands and millions of friggin' dollars. I mean, it's just, you got to give Trump one. He's clever about stuff like that. I wish he was as clever as running the American government as he is around, these wacky deals that he does, to funnel cash.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure what they're charging the Secret Service and the government for all the rooms they keep renting at Mar-a-Lago, Bedminster.
Right.
I'm sure they're not paying rack rate,
It really is rather extraordinary. Okay, well, let's go to the wall. Trump and the wall. Trump and that wall.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, looks like the Democrats outfoxed him, right?
Yeah, so far.
I mean, today Sanders said that, we don't necessarily need the money from these pending bills. We might be able to do it in other ways. So it sounded like they were kind of caving on the wall and thus a shutdown this week. I mean, congressional Republicans really don't want to shut down.
No.
The White House wants one. Had wanted. Trump had seemed to want one, but now he's caving. So.
I think he's caving because somebody told him he can't have the shutdown and go to Mar-a-Lago and play golf at the same time. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable bet. That's a bet here. I mean,
don't you get the feeling though that you can almost get in this guy's thinking in his head after all this time of following him and understanding what's going on? I don't find him a great big mystery. I think it's the fact that he's actually a simpleton in his thinking that is why he's gotten away. Great Washington minds are not used to such.
Yeah,
simplicity.
Well, he did tell Lester Holt, I fired James Comey because of Russia. I didn't like the Russia investigation, so that was pretty out. But
he doesn't think. That's the thing. The guy does not think. He reacts. He reacts. Everything is a reaction. I mean, imagine growing up with that family. By the way, can I just bring up his sister, who was a judge, or was a judge?
Right.
Talk.
A respected federal judge, yes.
Who, when you read that whole New York Times piece about all the money and how it was filtered from his father and the games that were played and the illegality, and the sister was core to all of that.
Yeah.
Hello? That might be why she's retired from the bench, because she would have been retired. But, no clean hands anywhere you look. That's for sure. All right, we move on. Let me bring this up because I don't want to forget it, and that's more stuff on Russia and its efforts to target and influence the election. Matt,
sure.
This makes me nuts. Here's why it makes me nuts. All right, so we now know they targeted African Americans, Hillary voters.
Right.
Okay. Now they're targeting Mueller. Help Trump.
Oh, totally.
Okay, right. But going back to the election itself, forgive me if I've said it. I don't think that I have, but I need to say it now, and that's this. When do we say, look, there is no way that all of this crazy mishigas that they pulled, the Russians, did not affect the small amount of votes that put Trump over the top? It's happening in North Carolina right now. We talked about that last week and all the craziness that went down there and the finagling and what have you and the illegalities. And the Republicans are saying nope, we're not going to give up the seat Take us to court. And now with the thing with Russia, and we find out week by week by week, if I went back to do the kind of wonderful work that you do when you're going through a story, and you map it out, and you see how much has actually been done. Matthew, Hillary is president. Why is everybody afraid to go down what appears to be the truth? You're going to say, oh, don't go there, Halli. Please don't go there.
No, I just, I mean, it's always a little hard to pull out causality, but it certainly seems totally reasonable that it swayed enough votes. I mean, I don't think it was as big an impact as Mueller, reopening the email investigation, in the middle of October. That was, I think,
you mean Comey? You mean Comey?
Comey, I'm sorry. Getting my prosecutors.
Yeah, I understand fully. We don't know that,
yeah, but look.
We don't know that.
Well, we know what happened to the Hillary polls after the email thing. But look, I think it's totally believable that the Russian stuff swayed the election.
Okay,
sure.
And here's why I think this is important. Because there's collusion on the part of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party on this issue. They are in lockstep. Nobody wants to go over that bridge to say, look, this is what happened, and this is it. And you know what? Somebody like 538, these guys could figure out numbers and see from time to day what happened and where. And now that they're starting to see the specifics of what the Russians did, and Facebook could hand it over and you could see, right?
Yeah.
And Instagram, let's just not call out one social media site. So my point being, there is collusion here. Democrats are afraid of it. Republicans are afraid of it. I'm afraid if they don't deal with this directly, this will never stop. That's my point.
This being the Russians won't stop.
And they'll be affecting our elections.
Yeah, well, you definitely have to, hit them hard for doing this stuff, and that's something.
Well, nobody wants to do it. Democrats aren't doing it.
I think the Dems are all for sanctioning, and pounding.
They're not standing out there in a collective, strong, specific, here is what happened, here is what we've got, or even hiring people to do to get the numbers squared away and all of that. And whether Trump wants to stop this or not, we are going to stop this. I don't see that, and I think that is a huge mistake. And I'm trying to figure out the reason why they wouldn't do that. And of course, everybody's afraid of a civil war in this country. I mean, there's no question about that. I think that plays a part into it. And how far out on the limb do you want to go, and how crazy, and how much would this? I just think this is bigger than anything on the table right now. This is, even to my way of thinking, almost as big as the Trump investigation, because both affect who we are as a nation and what we control of our own country. So that's what I'm thinking.
Look, I think no question it's a serious business, and with luck, we'll find better ways of containing it in the years ahead. And
not if you don't deal with it. Not if you don't address it directly. You won't. That's my point.
No, I
you hear me.
I agree.
I know.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
No, I know. I just I let it be said that I said it, because I know nobody else is saying it. Nobody, no way. And it needs to be said. Let me throw out a tidbit that happened today.
I like that. I like when you do the tidbits.
Not such a small tidbit, by the way. It's kind of large. Martha McSally, who lost in her race for the senator in Arizona today, was given the seat.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why this is important. Seat. Yeah, McCain's seat. And she had lost to, what's her name? Your favorite bisexual. If McSally is actually going to become the senior senator, even though she lost to the woman who became the senator.
Oh, that's right, because she takes the seat first.
Right. So much for so much for democracy. They don't vote her in, and she winds up the senior senator. Huh?
Well, it's basically an honorific. I mean, I guess it's true she comes in, with a little more committee seniority. I guess it has some effect.
Yeah. Now,
But
she has to
it's,
run again twice, I think, right? In the next, you understand that stuff better than I.
Yeah, I mean, cinema's not up till 2024.
Right, but this one is. But once you're in, it's usually maintained.
Usually.
So, yeah, so I wanted to bring that up because I want to say that. Okay, this is not a small tidbit. This is, I think, very important. New poll numbers. Now, I'm always wary of polls, but I'm not wary of polls if I watch how they evolve.
Yeah.
Then you can see reality. 60% of Americans believe there's a there on the Trump problem. And that's a I think the last one was like 52.
Yeah, that they believe he's got guilt in some crime or another. Yeah.
A little movement.
Although I think you got a subset of those people who think, yeah, he's guilty, but so what? They all do it.
Oh, you think that factors into it?
I think that's, and I think there are people who are like, well, yeah, but they're all criminals, and so what? She had her emails, he has this, whatever.
We get back to the same old question. It's like week after week after week, but at what point does this all just there it is, and they have to say, well, yeah, what? Okay. I don't think they can.
I don't know
if
we're. I don't know, because when Mueller does his thing, there will be a lot of pushback saying fake news. It's all made up.
Well, look at what happened with Jeannie Pirro and entrapment. That was blown out of the water today. How long can they? I mean, you think Fox is going to talk about that tonight? It's going to be very interesting to see. But let me tell you, let's put that 60% number in with this little figure, okay?
Okay.
The stock market on pace for the worst December performance since the Great Depression. And then Mr. Alan Greenspan, once considered the guru of all economics, although he certainly made a lot of mistakes, says, uh-oh, this does not end pretty. Is it the money? Is it the pocketbook? That ultimately gets these people to say, well, maybe the great guy, Trump, the great businessman, hasn't a clue what he's doing.
I think stock market's one component of that. Unemployment's another. Incomes, we gotta see where this all unfolds. But there's no question the market drop off's a worrying sign. And I mean, if the economy goes to pot, sure. I mean, Trump will take the hit for that.
Yeah, I think the economy is going to pot, but maybe we shouldn't say pot. It's to THC.
it's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
It's been almost a decade since a recession, and these things
have their own.
That's a long growth spurt. So we'll see.
Yeah, and and recessions. It's zeitgeist. I always feel like they're picking up the energy.
Yeah, no question. There's a lot of perception issues here. So I think a lot of Trump's surviving depends on the economy.
So I think that's fair to put in with that 60% who believe there's a there.
Absolutely.
There.
And that may be when Republicans start to, get some distance from him.
I think so. I absolutely think so. I just took a swig of tea because my throat's killing me. You are listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at HalliCasser-Jayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. All right. You ready for this? Oh, we're going way off topic here.
Go for it.
Melania Trump, talk about polls, has tanked in the polls. And so I loved watching my good friend Kate Anderson Brower, who's been a guest on the show. I adore this woman. She knows the White House better than anybody. Knows how it's run, understands first ladies, has written great books. Go back, listen to that interview. She writes a column, and she's Melania's show. She's a Trump through and through. Idiot Melania spokesperson answers. Never do that, right? Always so defensive, because all you're doing is whatever. Anyway, I guess it's through the I don't care jacket. Nobody ever believed. I think everybody up until then was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. She was going to be the woman who was going to, keep this guy straight and narrow, the great woman behind the man. And
Sure.
And she just took all of that goodwill and she blew it to smithereens. And she showed up on Fox with blonde hair a la her nemesis, the great porn star, Stormy Daniels. She looked terrible with blonde hair, by the way. She better go back to where it was. But I do think that's an interesting thing, that she, too, is now gone the way of Trump. Any thoughts about Melania? She's an odd first lady.
The way of Trump in terms of lower polls, or in terms of weird hair color?
I said that she's his. Well, I won't go there. But they do look alike if you look at them.
Well, the blonde was interesting. Well, first ladies tend to poll better than their husbands because they're kind of seen as apolitical, and they do charity stuff.
The good woman.
Obviously Barbara Bush and Laura Bush were very popular even when their husbands weren't. Hillary was less popular at times when she was seen as a political figure. So, Melania's. Melania's suffering a bit.
She's thin-skinned,
She's
by the way.
thin-skinned.
Yeah,
she's not. I think. Well, I don't want to get all psychological about this.
Oh, but do.
Do women really? She's the third wife, and she's a model, and are women gonna, relate to her, or is she like the worst, sort of like?
Well, I'll give you something that's interesting.
Is that what women want?
Well,
I think.
There were a lot of.
I think for the same reason. Here's a stretch, but I think for some of the same reasons, Megyn Kelly didn't make it in the morning slots on NBC. She was like a little icy, not sisterly.
Not warm.
I don't think you want to be too sexy as first lady. And I don't think you want to be the third wife.
Well, I'm going to give you an interesting thing. I have all these Republican friends on Facebook. Some have been on the show who I had, fascinated by, adore. They defend. I said I don't want my daughter or my granddaughter to see Melania naked in compromising images. That was a bridge too far for me, and we all know I'm a pretty crazy kind of gal. So that was upsetting to me. That was equally upsetting to other friends of mine who are center left like I am. And interestingly enough, the people who defended her, and to this day defend her, are Republican women. Go figure. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything against somebody who's made their living as a model or done nude pictures. Oh,
good for you.
I don't. It's. I don't. It's just that she seems she comes off as a little mean,
Mean?
She just doesn't come off. Yeah, she doesn't come off as terribly warm.
No,
so
it might be that she grew up in a communist country.
Yeah, some of it's that, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of a language barrier, not too much.
No, I doubt that. But you know who was
and
on?
also, she
go ahead.
never seems comfortable at these public,
Well, she seems reluctant. And that's what they fired back with, is she's not reluctant. But also, here's another thing that they said, her spokesperson. They don't like the way that the press treats Barron. And I'm like, Barron? Barron who? I haven't seen that kid since the day he was walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, at the inauguration. I go online to look. There's nothing on him.
The press have given him a pretty broad space, as they should.
Of course, absolutely. You and I both agree on that. It's just fascinating to me. So she's thin-skinned. We've learned she's rebellious. She's not comfortable in the role, and she doesn't feel. Other than that, life is dandy. I just wanted to bring her up because I think she's Trump. But by the way, Marla Maples was on today, or one of them this morning, talking yoga and mind stuff. I mean, completely the opposite. And they tried, of course, to nail her. She was there to give him a real little, knife in the back. It was fascinating. Anybody wants to go find that footage, you can probably find it on YouTube. It was fascinating.
I think the first two wives, if he was still married to them, would have
been better.
From what I've seen of them, would have been more popular.
Yes, particularly the first. She was.
Yeah, I think
she knew how to play
kind of colorful and effusive, and but for what I'm. But look, Melania, to give her credit, she didn't ask for all this.
None of them do.
None of them do. None of them think this is what their life is going to be like. She just wanted a corrupt billionaire. She didn't want a corrupt billionaire president. Or millionaire who pretends to be a billionaire president.
Oh, God. You're so bad. Yeah,
she just wanted a mogul.
She wanted a mogul. But look, this is what happened when you marry a guy for his money. You don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you can't afford to be married to a rich guy because it's just, you don't know what you don't exist.
You just have to go on along with the program.
And of course she has had to endure these stories about like him
endure
sex with porn stars.
Wait. Endure, honey.
Wait.
Complicit.
Well, we don't know that.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. If that were my husband. Gone, baby, gone, in a big fat hurry. I don't care how much money he had to humiliate me like that. Are you kidding? See, I find her that part of I would have walked, but then you because it wasn't. I'm going to go back to Bill Clinton.
Not easy to get divorced in the White House.
This happened before the White House. She knew about it before.
Well, we don't know when
she was pregnant with Barron when he had the affair with her.
Yeah, but we don't know she knew at the time.
Yeah, well, I think they have a quid.
She probably had good reason to suspect.
If he was stripping all the people.
If you're the third wife, you're probably going to suspect. It's kind of baked in the cake, right?
It is. Let's get off of her. I don't want to give her any more airtime. Goodbye, Melania. It's been swell. Get happy. But let me ask you this. It's a good argument for Bachelor Cory Booker to run, right?
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm happy to do without the institution of this first spouse.
Yeah, right. I think that's a conversation.
We've gotten a little dependent on it.
Yeah.
They sort of perform all the, royalty duties of ribbon cutting,
right?
And,
right.
Orphanages. But I think we'd be okay without it. I'm happy to go back to the Grover Cleveland model.
Right. That's true. So we'll see.
Right.
She just doesn't do it for me, and that's the last word on her for today. And I don't like your blonde hair, Melania. If you're listening, go get yourself back to your nice auburn locks with just a streak of blonde. Can we talk about James Comey? Big James Comey, interesting figure.
Sure.
Listen, he confuses, confounds. Who is this guy? I mean, boy, he's the perfect FBI guy. You don't know where he stands. I mean, he just plays everybody and just. What are your thoughts on? He came out screaming from that testifying yesterday, the second time he testified, which when they released the transcripts, it's my understanding that he basically said the same thing he's been saying all along about dear old Hillary. And by the way, this is a hell of a way for the Republican Congress, this Republican-led Congress, to go out more crap about Hillary. But what are your thoughts on this dude?
Well, I think he's, very, convinced of his own nobility and, thinks he did the right thing, reopening the Hillary email investigation in the middle of October before the election, violating FBI practices by giving a press conference when he decided not to recommend a prosecution of her in the summer of 2016. And I think he's very, very convinced, very sure of his own rectitude. And so sitting in a room with Republicans calling a liar for a couple of hours, I'm sure was very taxing for him, as it would be for anyone, but especially for him. And so, I'm not surprised he showed some emotion and heat afterwards, but I think the key to sort of understanding Comey is he's just convinced of his own rectitude. And, and look, he's done a lot of, impressive and good things in his life, but I think he's made some cataclysmic mistakes as well. And, he seems kind of blind to them.
Or he's playing them now for all they're worth. He's trying to rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, it's his brand. So,
right.
This is his thing, and this is what's going to keep him, on the lecture circuit for years to come. And
it's kind of interesting with him, though, because it depends who you are as to how you look at him. And he's just ticked everybody off at this point. So...
yeah.
That's what makes him fascinating.
Right. No, there's no question about it. I think he's a consummate survivor. He's total political animal. I mean, the reason we have the investigation is because he took all these copious notes and then leaked them to this law professor, leaked them to the New York Times, and that started the special counsel. I mean, he's a player, he portrays himself as a completely apolitical lawman, but in terms of understanding the bureaucracy and politics and the press, he
plays for himself. That's why
no peer. Yeah,
he plays for himself.
And look, I don't mean to diminish all the good things he's done in his career, and
but I will,
as a prosecutor in New York and other things. But I think he's I think he did cost Hillary the election definitively with the email thing, and should never have injected himself into that. And he still is very defensive about that.
Yeah.
This is not a guy who's great at admitting error.
Oh,
in fact,
never going to happen. Yeah, I was going to say that's just not part of his his psychological makeup. That's for sure. But he became the head of the FBI for a reason, and they're all of the same psychological makeup, which is what makes them such interesting characters. But Matt knew, and he knows as much as probably anybody, including Mueller. Mueller's in there to get the facts and the pieces. But Comey knew the end game before it started. Sure.
I mean, he knew about the investigation of the Russia connections that were already underway from the summer of 2016. Right. And it was, his people who had interviewed Flynn. And sure, I mean, he's talking to the Justice Department people. He knows Sally Yates for years as a fellow prosecutor. And, he's connected and knows everything. And,
well, I bring that up for this. To what you're saying, rectitude, I also say surety. He knows he's got Trump. And that's why he's swaggering, despite all the crap that's been thrown around about him. That's just my thought. Could be. I know. With me, it's always
could be.
That's what we're going to call the show, the Could Be Show.
How's that red tide doing that? It could just to switch topics. Going down to Florida, the state.
How's the red tide doing? We have no oysters left.
I mean, it's terrible.
No oysters. They killed the oysters.
This is when the snowbirds all want to go down there.
Well, it's I don't know if there's any.
Great.
I haven't been paying attention, but I don't think there's any around this time of year. It's probably not.
That's good.
Chilly, by the way. It's very, very chilly. But that being said, Red Tide Rick, it turns out the effects of the red tide this summer were we have no oysters, and so here we go. Yeah, so now he's bought himself his seat in the Senate. Maybe he can get some money for Florida to bring back the oysters. Hey, I want to bring something my good friend Greg Sargent said. I thought this was interesting. He had a piece in the Post. Trump has been badly weakened, he wrote. Nobody else has written that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another person, I don't remember who it was because this is all in the back of my head. I keep these things, but because I know Craig has been on the show. Also from the Washington Post, yes, there was collusion. Now what should we do about it? So we do have a weakened president. He can't get anything done.
No.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
you mean yes?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he is weakened. He lost the Chamber of Congress.
So let's talk about that, because nobody's talking about the fact that this is a weakened president already.
Yeah, very tough to get things done if the other party controls the chamber. So, that said, presidents have done it before. Reagan managed to do it with Democrat Congress late in his term, and Clinton got some things done. I mean, you can find things to do that you can get through if you're an adroit president, but...
So are you buying into the Dems line that they're going to concentrate as much on getting legislation done as they are as impeachment? Because the other side of that, Matt, I'll throw it back to you after I say that, is they've kind of been handed impeachment now with all of what's come down, that they don't really have a choice but to go down that road. Because he's an unindicted co-conspirator, and they got the goods on him. So, hello.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think they'll wait on impeachment per se until they have Mueller, probably. But there are plenty of investigations before then. Every committee can start hauling in witnesses, and they will. And it's going to be quite a sight starting in January. So it's going to be, every day is going to be a new hearing, and it's going to be, God, it's going to be intense.
And maybe at that point is when the Republican or the Trump cult says, "Oh God, could we change the channel, please?" Michael Cohen, rat, Giuliani. Should we talk about Giuliani having just about admitted guilt? Because he's not the smartest boy in the room anymore. I don't know what happened to him, but calling him a rat, the old what?
Yes,
Mom.
Calling Michael Cohen a rat was quite or Trump called him a rat, right?
Right.
Well, Rudy, how the mighty have fallen, right?
Boy.
I mean, he really just seems,
out of his league. But I think that's politics, what Trump.
He just seems grotesquely incompetent. But Trump likes loyalty, and Rudy
I don't think it's about loyalty. I think he wants stupid around him. Because he wants stupid around him. Let me tell you why I think he wants stupid around him. Because it's like everybody throws out this wacky, people with good minds can't grab onto stuff, right?
Right.
And I think that's what he wants. He's so cynical about who his base is that the crazier, the wackier, the more they buy into it. That's how he's defending himself. So at the end of the day, what are we left with on Trump's part, which is, the crazy. The crazy. Like what even happened today with Mike Flynn and the whole story about, this was entrapment. See, if he throws that stuff out there and they parrot it back, it's so crazy that might be the only defense that he has is a crazy defense. See what I'm saying? I'm getting into his head again.
Could be. Yeah, no, I there's something to that.
Matt, can I just tell you one thing? I love you.
I love you. It could be.
Could be.
Could be. Oh, these people. Well, it's
sorry.
Oh my God.
See what's happening? See what's happening? This is what we're all going nuts, and he's sane. I mean, that's what's so scary about all of this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a little
Can we talk
scary.
about Pelosi for a second before we sign off?
Sure. What? Talk to me.
I mean, I just, look, she is sort of, this ridiculous sort of half coup against her was so
stupid.
Now that she's put it down, I mean, let's just talk about
how wonderful she is.
How she outfoxed her, clumsy opponents.
The woman is brilliant.
I mean, she's just very good at what she does, and I'm a, the sort of idiocy of the people who opposed her without having a candidate to put up.
Right. I agree with you on that one. And Trump played right into it. She had Trump play right into her hand, by the way. She outsmarted him in a way that nobody else has been able to do.
Well, she knows how to flatter him.
Well, she knows how to play him, is what she knows how to do.
She knows how to play him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she and she did a hell of a job of it. What I will say to you, and you may understand what I'm about to say, or you may not. But when she walked out of there with her breakfast at Tiffany glasses and coat, that is an image that is going to stay with her now for the years to come. And that's the image that Trump will never, ever, ever be able to wipe out of admiring women's minds.
I think that's right. I think it'll be like Hillary in the shades on the military transport.
Exactly. Exactly. Or the one on the White House with the new hair.
Yeah, I think it's no. I agree. I mean, it's kind of badass, and I think it's just it serves her well. And there's no equivalent for Chuck Schumer. There's no.
Poor Chuck. I have great. I mean, he's really interesting to me because sometimes he's very effective in his kind of bumbling.
Yeah.
Way, right? But those glasses, the bend of his nose. You got something to say about him?
Well, they all have their crosses to bear. I mean, he had to spend a lot of time worrying about how am I going to keep Claire McCaskill and Heidi Heitkamp and Joe Donnelly in the Senate. And now he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's a little less constrained than he was
I'm also fascinated. Yeah, I agree with that. But, he's still not the leader. And so it's going to be interesting. But I've been noticing they've been giving him a lot more press and calling him on the shows, which for a long time they hadn't done. So maybe he'll feel his oats empowered by her, by Nancy in the position of power. They do work well together. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah, so I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Roger Stone, I want to bring him up because I in all of this, I just think a lot of that redaction might be about him. He's now admitted that he put out false information to InfoWars. And he's kind of given his own. What do you think? Do you think that he's key to all of this?
He seems to have played a role, but yeah, I mean, we don't know if he was the conduit to WikiLeaks and a key purveyor of all of this, or not. I mean, look, he's so weird and he's flamboyant and so odd that it would be very disappointing if he wasn't. I think we'd all be disappointed if in the end. I just think that there's an oddity there that and even people who like him would feel badly if he was found to be like out of the loop and had nothing to do with anything.
He said it's going to be a bad Christmas because he hasn't had any money because he's given it all to his lawyers. Oh, well. Hey, we can't not talk about Mick Mulvaney and the chief of staff crap.
Yes, that's a good note to end on. Yes.
Talk to me.
Well, one of the stories of this era will be how the Tea Party came to dominate the presidency of a guy who's not a conservative. And, Mulvaney is Trump's guy, and Trump loves him, and he's going to make him chief of staff for who knows how long. And, he's a super Tea Party guy. One interesting thing that Ron Klain, the Democratic lawyer, noted was that as long as Mulvaney stays head of the Office of Management and Budget, he can be subpoenaed before the Hill.
Right.
Now, normally White House Chief of Staff can't be subpoenaed. It's only people who have, sworn-in, Senate-confirmed executive branch jobs. They could call him up there, which would really be something. So.
They didn't think about that when they appointed him, so I have a feeling.
No, they don't think about anything.
Well, of course they don't. They don't think.
They don't. Yeah, there's not a lot of.
Well, they were desperate.
Not a lot of systems in place.
You think not? But I think that they were so desperate that they said, "Okay, we'll take it on," and then found out that he could be subpoenaed, and that's why I think that that can't stay. One or the other. I mean, he's going to have to give up something.
Yeah, but look, Trump will inevitably blame him for his bad press and be angry at him, and will fire him at some point.
Well, because that's that's the bottom line.
Yeah, there's just no way it won't end that way.
Oh boy. All right. Anything else? Think.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that too. You remember that? I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to leave you with the great send-up to the super talent Penny Marshall, who we lost at the young age of 75. And I'm going to say this to you, Matt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Schlemiel, Schlemazel, House and Pfeffer Incorporated. Happy Christmas, all.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I'm going to go watch A League of Their Own.
Good. Yeah, she was great.
Anyway, that's
all
it.
Right.
That's it.
See you next time.
time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is a production of Resec, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show at hallicasserjayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.